Alright class, so today we're going to be watching a video recently released by the UN on global warming. Global warming will likely reach 1.5 degrees Celsius in the next 12 years if we don't change the way we live our lives today, and if we don't reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and carbon emissions. It has become evident that all industries and people should take a united front to guarantee anything but a bleak future for Canada.
So what can we really do about this? It's not like we can just stop using gasoline or coal or whatever we use for the industry because they're so important for us today.
There are other alternatives to gasoline that we can use as an energy source, such as ethanol, which is a type of biofuel, or even better, cellulose ethanol.
Well, what are the advantages of these fuels?
Ethanol is a first-generation biofuel which can be produced by food crops. In this case, maize. It is made by breaking down and separating glucose molecules in cellulose, which is, in fact, a waste material created during production and manufacturing. Cellulose ethanol is different when comparing corn ethanol because cellulose ethanol is not made from the seed or fruit, but the leftover fibers of the plant or the plant itself. Cellulose is environmentally and economically better than grain ethanol because cellulose is the most abundant carbon-forming material on the planet, which creates the cleanest form of ethanol and non-food crops. And non-food crops are needed to produce ethanol. As well, the price on corn products are less affected.
Well, okay, I guess I'm gonna do my research on that and we can talk about it later.
That's what good scientists do.
Okay, well, if we're just investing in ethanol corn, aren't we just making the price of food corn rise and destabilize the agricultural market?
Hey Nick, I heard you talking. So from 2000 to 2011, higher ethanol production did not reduce corn exports despite a decline in the exported volume, since the value of corn actually increased by 180%. The actual impact on retail food prices was estimated to be only about 5.2% in 2008, when concerns about the impact of biofuel on food prices reached its peak. In addition, consumers actually benefited from an additional 3% reduction in fuel prices due to the usage of biofuels. The usage of biofuels supports the agricultural sector, which is the largest manufacturing employer and directly provides jobs to 250,100 people and directly and indirectly to another 2 million Canadians. So, as seen in the graph, large areas in Canada are already used as farmland. This is an important part of our economy, and even though growth in the sector has led to some deforestation, the lasting damage that agriculture has on the land is less when compared to oil and gasoline.
Right. Thank you. I guess I'll do more research on that later
no problem.
on.
Just let me know.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, this makes no sense now. It says right here, as gas efficiency goes up in cars and we use more and more ethanol, as mandated by the US government, for instance, up to 14 billion gallons, we're just driving out people of their jobs in the oil industry. What about them?
I'd have to disagree with that. The truth is that a single ethanol refinery plant would use 300,000 tons of feeds of grain per year, and that uses an estimated 250,000 acres of land to produce the feedstock. A plant of this size would consume about 700 acres of production per day. The amount of jobs that a plant like this creates is far more than that of a single refinery in the oil sector. That means that the benefits that come from ethanol production, the refinery of ethanol, and the consumption of ethanol are all evenly distributed among a large area. That means that places like Saudi Arabia or large oil countries don't make all the money, but the normal people in America in their separate respective regions stand to benefit from the production of ethanol too.
I guess that makes sense, but I just need one more question answered about how it affects my income and what it really means for how I will be spending my money on ethanol and how the government is going to be spending it. Hey,
Oh, hi Nick.
yeah, I had a question. So, they're putting ethanol into fuel right now, and I know that it's causing damage to my car. So, in the long run...
I gotta stop you there. Do you really think that ethanol causes damage to your car?
Well, yeah, we all know that excessive amounts of ethanol in your engine will cause permanent damage that will cost you more in the long run to maintain than you save while using ethanol.
That's actually a really big misconception within the greater community. In fact, a report and study published by the Society of Automotive Engineers verified this to be not true. What they said, Nick, was that within an engine, there occurs a reaction between ethanol and the moisture within the air, creating a substance which looks white and is viscous in a sense. Essentially, this white viscous substance is what causes corrosion within the engine. Though, it's important to note that many people forget that they use their cars every day. The rate of reaction at which this white viscous substance is created is so low that it actually can't be made every single day to a point in which it corrodes the engine more than gasoline. Because of that, it means that on a day-to-day use, as reported by the Society of Automotive Engineers, ethanol is just as harmful to an engine as gasoline is.
Right. Thank you very much. You helped me in my research. Now I really understand the difference that ethanol makes when compared to gasoline. Now I do truly believe that we should, in fact, use corn to produce ethanol to substitute it in gasoline because it is for a greener tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Bye-bye.
Hi there. We hope that you enjoyed the video today and learned more about ethanol as you followed Nick on his journey as he asked questions through a political and economic lens about ethanol production, finally coming to the conclusion that corn should be used for fuel instead of being used for food. We think that it's important to note, however, that within the status quo, that being the current day, it would be practically impossible for all of humanity to transition from using octane to using ethanol. We think that there exists production limitations, but also general fear and negative preconceived notions in the public that would prevent this from happening. To address this, we have a fourfold solution. Firstly, we would create an automotive committee. This committee would comprise of automotive manufacturers as well as automotive companies and would work to implement and oversee the transition and research of the creation of engines with various blends of ethanol and octane. We think that when we're able to have engines which can actually handle high amounts of ethanol, that's when we really get mass consumer adoption. Secondly, we would create a farming committee comprised of farmers and farming companies. They would work to increase the efficiency of farms when it comes to the production of corn and to best research how to transition from octane to ethanol. Thirdly, we would create an enzyme committee, which is going to be comprised of chemists and biologists whose main goal is to research and experiment on ways to make cellulose-breaking enzymes cheaper and more obtainable by the public. And lastly, and we think this is the most important solution of all, we would educate the public through a series of public service announcements and advertisements about GHG emissions and the effect that octane specifically is having on the environment. Following in suit of this video, we would create other videos to also inform the public just how beneficial ethanol can truly be. We hope that you learned a lot about ethanol today and you join us in our fight for a more sustainable and eco-friendly future.